started and call our first panel members up. So if you guys would come on up. We have Nancy Zoba, who's a community volunteer leader with the American Red Cross. Andrew Basada, who's the director of Broward County Elderly and Veteran Services. Paul Scrovis, who's the director of Broward County TOPS Paratransit Division. And Doug Brightwell, who's the director of Broward County Animal Care and Adoption Control. What we're going to do is each panelist is going to speak for about 10 minutes, maybe 10 to 12 minutes, just about the topic that they're focusing on. I'm going to call them to the podium so they can stand here in front of all of you. And then once they've spoken, we'll work our way down each panel member. At the end, we do hope that you'll be asking questions because we did save time for all of you to ask them questions in the end. Here you go, Nancy.
Thank you, Charlotte. As Charlotte said, my name's Nancy DeZoba. I am a volunteer with the American Red Cross. Just so you guys know, you wonder if you donate to the Red Cross and stuff. 90% of the work done by the Red Cross is done by volunteers. For disaster preparedness in Broward County, there are 2 paid employees, and the rest of us are all volunteers. So just to let you know, there's a lot of community support, and I've just done my little ad that if you have time, please come and help us out. One of the things I want to talk about is what do we do before the storm starts? You know, on a clear day like this, what should you be doing to get ready for a hurricane? Take time to look at your daily living. What things do I do day in and day out that I might have to replicate when a storm comes? You know, you eat, you drive somewhere, you sleep somewhere. What are your plans for that when there is a hurricane coming or a disaster coming? Where am I going to go? How am I going to eat? You know, so you want to start looking at these things that you do every day. Do you have some type of medical condition that you have to go in for dialysis every 3 days, something like that? Make a whole list of what your needs are so that you can start making a plan. Okay, so when you make that plan, a lot of times, depending on what emergency management tells you, you're going to end up having to evacuate. Or you may be able to stay home. But whether you stay home or evacuate, you need to have a to-go kit, a hurricane kit in your home that is easy enough to take with you if you have to leave, but will supply you all your needs when an event happens. And what are some of the things that you need in there? You need water. You need enough water to drink. You need enough water to clean yourself with. So we recommend that you have a gallon a day per person, and a minimum of 3 days. So that's per person. If you have more people in your house, you multiply that by 2 or 3 or 4. Food, you want to have enough non-perishable food. When you go to some of the shelters, they're not going to feed you real well. I know at the Red Cross, sometimes, you know, you get tired of spaghetti and meatballs or something like that because we're doing mass feeding. So make sure in your to-go kit you have items that you can bring with you, your own comfort food. Whether you like cheese crackers or whatever it is, make sure you have that in your go kit. I would recommend that you stay away from chocolate. I did a deployment and I like chocolate a little bit and put it in the side pocket, and then there was no air conditioning at the place. Florida, summer, chocolate, it doesn't work. So I would avoid that. Go ahead and do flashlights and batteries. You're going to see that probably in your book. No candles. The fire chief will tell you if the winds get high enough, they cannot respond in the storm. And if your house catches on fire, that's a horrible feeling, not only for you, but for the firefighter who's trained to go out and fight fires and is told, no, you can't go help these people because the winds are too strong. So make sure you have the safety asset in there. A battery-powered radio. Our guest speaker from the Weather Service will go over a lot of stuff, but make sure you have that battery-powered radio, even ones that have the crank. You know, you get your exercise in when you're cranking that radio every hour. But it will give you updated information. And talking about information, I've had this question come up before. Please go to your emergency management office if you need information, should I evacuate or not. Don't listen to the people on Facebook and TikTok and everything else. We have seen this in a lot of disasters where, well, this never happened here before, so we're not going to evacuate. I don't care what the government's telling us. My uncle said it's never happened, you can stay here. And then, of course, the home's damaged and, the situation goes bad. So if they tell you, leave, leave. Medication, please have at least a week's supply of your medication available. And if possible, put it in your to-go kit. That may mean every week you have to go in there and rotate your medication in and out. But the commissioner mentioned not having medication. If you have to pick up your to-go kit and your medication's not in there and you run out the door, you're going to be in a shelter with no medication. So make sure you have that. Another big thing that I want to remind you to do with your kids is to make sure you have all your personal information. Put it all together electronically. Put it on a cloud site somewhere. Email it to your family members so that you can get that. Even things like telephone numbers. I used to work in public safety before I retired. I used to know all kind of phone numbers. Nowadays, unless I have my cell phone with me to look it up, I couldn't remember that phone number. So make sure that's there and that everybody that you're in contact with that's important to you has a copy of that so they can help you if something goes wrong. You want to, speaking of families, make sure you have a good network for support for yourself. You want to be sure that those people that are supporting and helping you know what you need, what your needs are. You want to make a plan as to when you're going to leave, where you're going to go, how people are going to contact you, and then put it in writing and again send it to your family or a caregiver so that that's all written, whether it's your insurance policies, your medication, anything. That all needs to be a part of your plan. Taking the time when it's nice blue skies and setting up a plan is very important. In that program you have is a lot of information how to set that plan up. I can't stress how important that is. Having worked in shelters after storms and people don't have that information, you really need to be able to put that together. Please work with your caregivers. If you're a caregiver, work with your client. Make sure you have access to all their basic information so that they can be taken care of. And also, if you have a good plan, it will work even if it's not a hurricane. There's other disasters that happen here. Last year, we had tornadoes up in St. Lucie County that caused a lot of devastation in a small area, and we had probably close to the first night 300 people that had to be sheltered. So you have to look at those kind of things, not only hurricanes, but tornadoes, floods, the floods we had in Fort Lauderdale a couple years ago. And if you have a plan, practice it. It may sound silly. You're thinking, I'm not 5 years old, I don't need to practice who I'm going to call or when I'm going to call. But the more you practice it, the more it just becomes natural to you. Because when the yogurt hits the fan and everybody's running around, you don't want to be the person that says, well, I don't know what I'm going to do this time. It's so important to get that plan together. The Red Cross has a free app. You can go to Red Cross. We have an app for emergencies. And if you go there, they'll be able to, you'll be able to download stuff, things like this. There's an emergency contact card, which I would recommend that you fill out and keep it in your to-go kit. It has all the contact information that you fill in. So it's all right there, it's all written, just update it. We have at the Red Cross a lot of stuff that you're going to hear the local government agencies talk about. We have pages on our Red Cross site of what to do before and after. And we have a lot of information on there, and even a whole pamphlet with dealing with older Americans and people with disabilities that actually help you write the plan. There's a whole pamphlet in there. So I really would like to stress that we need to work together on these plans. It's so important that you have everything that you need within that kit. So that kit also you could do as 2 kits. Sometimes we end up having 2 kits, one for at home and one for going to the shelter, because when you go to the shelter, you're going to have to bring things like soap, toothpaste, all your personal items. If you're going to shelter in place, you have all that stuff. So I know my time's almost up for a second. Just make sure you go through the program that you have today and go through that list. And thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. I'd like to next call up Andrea Masada. As I mentioned, she's the Director of Broward County Elder and Veteran Services. Thank you, Andrea.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning.
As Charlotte said, my name's Andrea, and during what we call blue skies, a beautiful day like today, I'm the Director of Broward County's Elderly and Veteran Services Division. But when there's an event and the county activates its Emergency Operations Center, I also serve as the Human Services Branch Deputy Director, and I report to the Emergency Operations Center in Plantation, and I work there for the duration of the event. I've been with the county 24 years, and I've worked at the Emergency Operations Center for every hurricane since 2004, which we started with Francis and Jean. Then 2005 with Katrina and Rita and Wilma. So I have a lot of experience. So I kind of have a hodgepodge of things to talk to you about this morning, just some general overviews of some information. And I like that Nancy and Senator Rich and everyone mentioned this. Because we live in Florida, we do tend to talk about hurricanes the most, but I want everyone to be rest assured that fire rescue, law enforcement, Broward County's Emergency Operations Center, they are prepared for all hazards. They plan year-round for any kind of emergency that you can think of, and they are a well-oiled machine and will take care of us. So Broward County takes this role very seriously when it comes to emergency management, and we work closely year-round with a lot of other agencies like the school board, the State Department of Health, the Area Agency on Aging, the Broward Behavioral Health Coalition, and the Broward Healthcare Coalition, just to name a few. All county staff are considered essential when there's an emergency. We all have to work, and we report for duty at various locations. Like I said, I go to the Emergency Operations Center. We have staff who go to the shelters and help everyone at the shelters. And we have staff who go to the county's warehouse, and they're in charge of loading up trucks and supplies and delivering and inventory control and all of those things that people need at the shelters during a storm. Now, opening up shelters is a very difficult and complicated decision. It's not an easy decision to make, but the Broward County Emergency Operations Center and county administration and the county commissioners all take this very seriously, and there's a lot of factors to consider when deciding whether or not to open shelters. For example, when is the storm going to make landfall? What are the wind speeds that we're expecting? What kind of rainfall are we expecting? Is there going to be a storm surge? Are we at high tide or low tide when that storm surge hits? So all of those things come into play. Also, just the day of the week matters, and the time of day matters. Is the storm going to hit at 2 in the afternoon or 2 in the morning? So all of those things come into play when deciding when and how many shelters to open. And like Nancy said, it's very important if you live in an evacuation zone to evacuate. And she gave you the absolute reason. Once the winds get too dangerous, vehicles like ambulances and fire trucks will flip over. So they can't get to you if that time has come. So please always consider evacuating. Now, you don't have to go to a shelter. You can always go to a friend or family that does not live in the evacuation zone. That's highly recommended, and I'm sure more enjoyable than going to a shelter. The good thing about the shelters, they are all what we call hardened facilities. They're built to withstand 3-second gusts of 220-mile-per-hour winds. So they are really the safest place to be. But they're not exactly a luxury, so you want to think of them more as lifeboats and not hotels. And at the shelters, there's 3 different kinds of sheltering that we have here available at the county. The first is called the general population shelters, and you'll hear more about those from Bill Condon, who's in the next panel. The school boards, of course, provide schools to service the shelters, and the Broward County government is responsible for operating those Gen Pop shelters. The second type of shelter are the special needs shelters, which I'm sure many of you have heard about and want to learn more about. So special needs shelters are for people of all ages who have needs or require assistance that's not available at the regular general population shelters. And the goal is to help maintain that person's status of health during the event. The local Florida Department of Health is the lead agency. They operate the shelters with their staff, and they are responsible for identifying, assessing, coordinating, and supporting the public's health and medical needs during an event. They monitor, investigate, and control threats that are of an environmental origin. So, for example, they're the ones who will decide if a boil water notice is needed and how long that stays into effect, so that's who decides that issue. They also do things like behavioral health services and first responder safety and health needs. We have to take care of the first responders so they can take care of everyone else. And as I mentioned, the county government also helps operate those special needs shelters. The county government, Bill will talk about that more, also provides non-medical supplies like cots and water, staff, case management services, functional needs support services, all types of things. And as I mentioned before, we partner with other agencies before, during, and after. So at every shelter, there's school board staff on site, there's law enforcement on site, and there's fire rescue and paramedic personnel on site. So it's a safe, comfortable place to be. The third type is called medically managed facilities. And this is for people whose medical conditions exceed what's available at a special needs shelter. And if their needs are that great, they are referred to one of the local hospitals, and it's called as a boarder. It's considered a boarding program at the hospital. And we work with hospitals like Broward Health, Cleveland Clinic, Holy Cross, and Memorial Healthcare System. So, how do you get to a special needs shelter? The important thing is called the Special Needs Registry. And pre-registration is highly recommended for a couple of reasons. First of all, when there's a storm coming, you don't want to have to worry about filling out forms or being on the phone with someone for 20 minutes to tell them all about your daily living situation and what kind of help that you need, because you're already under stress. So it's best to just get it done during blue skies. It also helps all of those agencies prepare. They will be able to know ahead of time how many people might be coming to the special needs shelters, what kind of supplies they need, what kind of medications they need, anything of that sort. So there's an application process that goes through the county's Office of Emergency Management, and there's a special needs program, shelter program coordinator named Josette Rowe, who is here with us today. She's the expert. And also the Department of Health nurses. So when you send in your application, they triage, they review your application, and then they determine your triage level. So they determine whether you can go to a Gen Pop shelter, or you need to go to a special needs shelter, or you need to go to a medically managed facility. And they will contact you in writing with that determination and help you figure out your plan from there. Now, just because you registered doesn't mean you have to go. Like we said, you can always go to a friend or family that's not in an evacuation zone, but you always want to have that lifeboat, that safety net there in case you need it. So once they've opened up the shelters, there's a lot of activity that goes on, and Paul and Doug are here to talk about more of that. Now, what happens if you don't pre-register and there's a storm coming and you think, I might need to go to a special needs shelter? You can still call the county's hotline, which is 311. You can call the county hotline 24/7 when there's a storm coming. And the Department of Health nurses will triage you over the phone. So they'll basically go through that application process over the phone. It might take a little bit of time. We always ask everyone to please be patient. We know it's stressful for everyone, so you want to take your time, try not to get stressed out, and that way you'll get the best results. There's another really great resource that's called Vulnerable Population Registry. I won't go into too much detail because there's a lot of that in your program. But that's a registry that if you have special needs or are at risk for any kind of vulnerability and you don't go to a shelter, It's a database that helps the city that you live in know who you are, where you are, and what you might need. So that's an important thing to do during Blue Skies as well. And again, like I mentioned, you can always call the county hotline 311 for help. I'm just going to give you, to finish up, a few of my own personal tips. So how many people here are like me and don't like to ask for help? How many people here are like me and have to learn things the hard way? So, like Nancy mentioned, always keep a flashlight and battery handy. And you want to keep them not just in your house, but in your car too. Because when you're driving around, when you're driving somewhere late at night and there's no power, you're not going to be able to see anything, whether you're at home or at the gas station. So always have a flashlight with batteries in your car and check those batteries monthly. Always, if you can, any kind of device that you have, if they make a car charger for it, have a car charger on hand. That way you can make sure that you will be able to keep your cell phone charged, your laptop charged, whatever you might need. Also keep cash and change on hand. Stick a $20 bill in your wallet, hide it, and forget about it during the rest of the year. Because when there's no power, there's no cash registers, and there's no ATMs. And if you need something, you're going to need cash. And finally, keep your gas tank at least half full at all times during hurricane season. Don't be like Andrea, waiting in line where the thing says, you have 2 miles until empty, and you have to keep turning your car off so you don't run out of gas before you get to the gas pump. So don't be like Andrea. Again, you have the program book with you. There is amazing information in there. There is a lot of information in there. I urge you all to read the entire book slowly and carefully, maybe tackle 1 page at a time so you don't get overwhelmed. But it's really important and it's great information. And also, if you have any questions, you can always email me. Again, my name is Andrea Busada, and my email address is my first initial and last name, abusada@broward.org. And I'd be happy to answer any questions or consult experts like Josette and the folks at the health department who would be able to answer your questions. Thank you.
Next, we have Paul Strobus, and Paul is the Broward County Director of TOPS. Here you go, Paul.
Good morning. So, I work for Broward County Transit. As Charlie mentioned, I'm in charge of the TOPS program, which provides door-to-door transportation to our seniors and our disabled population here in the county. I'm also in charge of the administration of our community shuttle program, which is a partnership in 18 municipalities in Broward County that provides fixed route shuttles free of charge in the community. Broward County Transit in Blue Skies, like today, operates 20 hours a day, 6 days a week, 16 hours on Sunday, providing public transit to our 2 million residents in Broward County. But when we activate, we have to do both. We have to continue to provide our public transit service, but we also have to start to prepare for evacuation services. And so throughout the year, we partner with emergency management to synchronize the special needs registry participants with our database for the TOPS program to ensure that anybody who needs evacuation transportation to any of the 3 shelter types that Andrea mentioned, we know who they are and are in our system. But, as Andrea mentioned, if we are activated, you can still call 311 and get into that system if you decide you want to evacuate. So, 2 million residents live in Broward County, roughly. We only have 717 people currently in our special needs registry. It's not a very large number. So again, as Andrea mentioned, don't wait till the last minute if you can. If it's something you want to have as an emergency backup, it's better to do it now than wait until activation. On our fixed route bus system, we also run evacuation routes for individuals in our evacuation zones. We have 3 zones. Zone 1 would be anything on A1A on the beach. Zone 2 would be from Federal Highway East. 3 is 441? Federal? 95, thank you. So if we're in a Category 1 or 2 type storm, we're gonna be running evacuation buses along the beach at all of our bus stops to bring individuals to the local shelters for that. As the storm intensity grows, we expand those routes out on Federal as well, okay? So it's not just the paratransit vehicles that are providing those services. We're responsible for getting people to those shelters in time before, as Andrea mentioned, those wind speeds hit a certain mile per hour. So our vehicles can't be on the road when the sustained winds are gonna reach 35 miles an hour. And so what happens in the activation is we're gonna be reaching out to you earlier than the storm arrival to get you to those shelters when it's safe, because we've got to get our drivers off the road and home as well. So one of the issues that I've always come across in an activation is we will reach out to everybody in the registry that needs transportation, and they'll say, well, come get me in 6 hours. Unfortunately, I can't do that. You know, we've got to get you out of your house and to that shelter as early as possible when we open the shelters, and so you've got to be ready to go when we can get you there. Otherwise, you're going to be forced to shelter in place, okay? Some of the things that we do, we reach out to every person in the registry with a phone call. We're going to let you know the shelters are opening at a certain time. You've identified the need to be evacuated to a shelter, and we're going to reach out to make sure that that is the case. If you have other plans, that's fine. You don't have to travel with us. But we're going to give you that opportunity. I have a call center that's on call 24 hours a day during an activation to take that trip request from you to get you from your home to those shelters. Whether it's general population, special needs, or even the higher level of care one, we'll get you there. We're going to tell you what you can bring with you. Our staff has a script to remind you these are the things that you can bring to the shelters to make sure you don't forget. So they've got a script to go through with you. We're also going to be there after the storm. We've got to get you back to your house, right? So by knowing that we brought you there, we're going to be able to also send vehicles to get you back out of the shelters into your home. So again, we're going to be contacting you for that. We work closely with the shelter managers to make sure that everybody's been brought home safely. We want to make sure that your house is livable. You know, you may get to the house and find out that there's damage, that you can't stay there. Then we bring you to another step-down shelter or back to the shelter while we work with American Red Cross and emergency management to find a place for you while your house is being repaired. So these are a lot of the things that we do with transit, pre-storm, post-storm, to get people to and from these shelters. But again, as Andrea mentioned, the shelters really should be that last resort emergency for you, and try to have a plan elsewhere. We also provide life-sustaining dialysis transportation. As much as we can, we work with a lot of the big dialysis centers to make sure that people aren't missing those appointments that may be disrupted by a storm. So, you know, they'll send us modified schedules based on their availability, and we ensure that we get those people to those appointments as well. So, all right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paul. And then on our panel, last but not least, we have Doug Brightwell, Director of Broward County Animal Care and Adoption Division.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. As she said, I'm Doug Brightwell, the Director for Broward County Animal Care. I've been with the county for just over a year now, and thank you all for being great citizens. We appreciate being here. I just want to cover a few things to expect before the storm, what to expect at the shelter, and then what we do post-storm. First of all, raise your hand. How many of you have pets, cats or dogs? Good number of you, good. Hopefully they're all up to date on their vaccinations and on their county registration, and hopefully they're all microchipped so that we can make sure that if they get lost, they don't have their tags or their collars, we can get them back home. As with the people population, sheltering with your pets should also be a last resort. Ideally, you've got a plan so that you and your pets can evacuate. If not, and you have to go to a shelter, there's 3 pet-friendly shelters located with the general population shelters around the county. So if you come to a general population shelter and you have a pet, then you will come to one of those shelters that's got a pet-friendly shelter located with it. If you are a special needs person, if you have an actual trained service dog, that trained service dog, like a seeing eye dog, a seizure dog, can accompany you to a general population shelter or a special needs shelter. Emotional support animals are not allowed to be in special needs shelters, and they go to pet-friendly shelter just like the rest of the pets do. When you come to a pet-friendly shelter, I'll go through what you need to expect. But prior to that, in the booklet, toward the end, there's a nice checklist of what to do and prepare beforehand. So if you've got your pets, please have them up to date on their shots and their licenses, and have that information with you in a waterproof bag so that you've got that information for folks who need it, or if you have to evacuate to a shelter or out of county. If your pet is on medications or on special foods, just like for the rest of your family members, you need to have at least a 2-week supply of that pet's medication on hand with you, and also if they're on a special diet of some sort, because I have a dog I'm doing that right now, God bless you if you do. Have that special diet, because if you're in a shelter or you're traveling, that special diet is not going to be easily accessible. So take that with you to save them some distress on the diet side. And also, if you're sheltering in place, make sure you have enough water for your pet to drink, just like include that in your calculations with the rest of your family. Have the go bag ready for your pets, just like the rest of the family. Have a leash, have the collar, have a crate. Now, when you're traveling with your pet, you need to have them in a crate if they're a small pet or a cat, a small dog or a cat. If it's a larger dog, you need to have them on a leash that they can't slip the collar and get it loose from. If you have to come to a pet-friendly shelter, you need to bring, ideally, a crate that your pet can stand up, move around in, and lay down in comfortably and live in that crate for several days. So if you have a cat or a small dog and you bring the little plastic carrier that you can move them around in, that's great to transport them in. That is not going to be sufficient for them to live in a shelter for 2 or 3 days. So you would need to get a medium-sized crate, dog crate type situation for a normal-sized cat. If you, like me, you've got a 20-plus pound cat, then you need a bigger crate. So keep that in mind. So when you come to a shelter with your pet, the pets are going to be checked in and kept in the gymnasium of the pet-friendly shelter. And you will be assigned a time to come and feed your pet, clean up after your pet, walk your pet, medicate your pet on a rotational basis while you're residing in the shelter. You will not be staying with your pet, and your pet will not be staying with you. When you're not with your pet doing the care, the feeding, the walking, the cleaning, you will be over on the general population side with all the rest of the citizens, and your pet will be staying in the locker rooms with us. We have staff on site 24/7 during the storm. We have kennel staff, we have veterinary technicians, and animal control officers all on site at every pet-friendly shelter to provide the care that the pets need when you're not with them and to come and get you. Now remember, if your pet has a medication that needs to be refrigerated, you should not come to a pet-friendly shelter. There will be no refrigeration ability, so if your dog or cat is on insulin, that insulin needs to be refrigerated. You should find other alternative plans for a storm, because there's no way to refrigerate that medication at a pet-friendly shelter, and you don't want to have your pet going into medical distress because of that. So bring that several day supply, week supply of food and medication with you to the pet-friendly shelter as well, because we all never know how long it's going to be there. And then after the shelter is closed down, you may or may not be able to return home immediately. So make sure you have that go kit for yourself and for your pets. Like I said, you will be assigned a time to rotate through to walk your pets, clean your pets, feed your pets. You provide all the care. We're just there to assist if you need any additional help. If you have a dog and your dog tends to be aggressive to other dogs or to people, please keep in mind you probably should make other plans and not come to a pet-friendly shelter, because if your dog cannot be safely maintained in the wire crate in the locker room with other dogs, you may not be able to keep your dog there. So please keep that in mind. You know your pets far better than anybody else. And be honest in how you evaluate your pet, because you want you and your pet and your family to be safe during this storm. Post-storm, some of the services animal care will provide is, depending on the damage around the county, and the people who shelter in place, if they've lost parts of their home or their fences, animals get loose and become stray. We will be working with emergency management and public safety. We will be located throughout the county and have points announced where we'll be collecting stray animals that may have gotten loose during the storm. So you can check in that local area before you try to navigate all the way down to Fort Lauderdale to our shelter. Because we want to try to make the return home, if your pet got loose, as quickly as possible. We don't want to have a lot of driving back and forth. So we've got plans in place for that. And I think that's all I've got for you.
Thank you, Senator. So do we have any questions of the panelists? Yes.
If the special needs shelters, is it a requirement that the person who needs to be at the special needs shelter bring with them someone to help care for them? Whether it be a family member, a friend, a neighbor, a home health aide, but yes, it is highly recommended that you bring someone comes with you to help care for you during the storm. There are a lot, like I mentioned, there's a lot of staff there. There's health department, there's EMTs, there's nurses, but they can't be with you and with your person all the time. So you want to have someone there with your loved one all the time. That's the best course of action.
I'm sorry. I heard you mention database for those that are special needs. How do you find out if you're in the database, if you've ever done it, number one? And the other question was probably related to the transport that I'll get to you. It was about, how do we find out if you're in the database, or how do you get in the database if you aren't?
Okay, so there's two different databases that we're talking about. The first one is the Vulnerable Population Registry, and that's the online registration for people who might need help after a storm that they're going to shelter in place. And the cities have that information. But you're talking about the Special Needs Registry.
I'm talking about the special needs, right? That needs electricity and really medical special needs shelters.
Yes, I would
Database.
call upon Josette to help us answer that question, because she's really the expert. This is Josette Rowe. She is the Special Needs Shelter Program Coordinator for the Broward County Emergency Operations Division.
Thank you, Andrea. In answer to that question, you have two options. You can call me. I have a business card for those that need it. And you could call and I could look in the registry to find out whether or not you are registered. If you've never filled out a paper application or you have not completed an application within the last 2 years, you will need to complete an application. The application is a little lengthy, but it is worth it to be registered. Or if you have, if you're computer savvy, we do have an online registry. You can also call me for that link. Or there may be, that information may be in the booklets provided to you, and you could search to see if you're within that database, and if you're not, then you can also complete an application online as well.
So it's every 2 years, you need to make sure if you have done it previously. And like I said, I'm talking about the medical special needs, that you need electricity, oxygen, the works.
Yes, if your triage is going to a special needs shelter, which are within our public schools, that is a biannual, every 2-year process to update that registration. However, if you are triage is going to a hospital, such as Memorial Health, or others that we partner with, that is an annual process, because it is important for them to have the most current and up-to-date information on file for you, and circumstances and health and medical information changes, so that's why it's required for, if you're triaged for a hospital, that you complete that application annually.
Okay, I need the annual, thank you. One last question.
Thank you, Josette.
Doug.
Yes.
So Doug, in regards to the medical special needs that needs advanced transport, like I have a, okay, Paul, sorry. My grandson sleeps with a respirator and oxygen and feeding tubes and you name it, Toyota, multiple equipment. How do you get the transportation? And when the transportation comes, are they able to compile and get all of that stuff with them there to the hospital or wherever they're going?
Sure. So when you go through the application process that Josette mentioned, part of the triage process is going to evaluate your functional ability as a person to see if the TOPS program which is a door-to-door service for evacuations, is appropriate. And if not, we also partner with our non-emergency medical providers in Broward County that have that higher level where they can go up in and carry equipment out, or if you're in a bed that requires stretcher service. So we have transportation providers that are also available for evacuation for those people that need that higher level of service.
Okay, one last question related to that. Is insurance required? Is that gonna be a service free through the county to get people there? Do I have to make sure I got money or whatnot?
No, that's a service that the county is providing.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Both of you. All of you.
My question is for Andrea. I am actually on the board with the EOC as well. I work for the city of Deerfield Beach. The question I want to ask is, what I'm finding out is that a lot of caregivers are signing up their loved ones for the VPR list, and when we're calling to check, they have no idea or clue what the VPR is or want to be evacuated. So how do we handle that situation?
That will just take some patience and some tact and try to explain to them what the purpose of the vulnerable population registry is. I think the important thing would be to ask them if they're going to evacuate or if they're going to stay in place, and then explain that if they stay in place, that's where that assistance would come in. And also, we just want to mention that the city of Deerfield Beach does an amazing job with their vulnerable population registry. They're one of the best cities.
Thank you. Thank you.
May I take that? Yes. Brian would like to also respond.
Thank you, Brian.
Here in Sunrise, I'll introduce myself real quick. I'm the head. Hello, how are you? I'm Brian Davis. I'm a division chief here, but I'm also the emergency manager for the city of Sunrise. And we actually just completed our our vulnerable population registry, where we get together and reach out to everyone that's on the list for here in the city of Sunrise. If we have an issue like that, I'm not quite sure how you guys do it in Deerfield, but we have because your fire rescue is DSO. What we do is we have a community paramedic. I don't know if you have community paramedicine or not in Deerfield, even though I live in Deerfield, you think I would know it, but what we do is we flag those individuals where there might be some type of issue like that or whatever, and then we actually go out and do an investigation or a home visit or whatever, just to make sure, because this time of year when something does spin up, we're not going to have the time for that, so we try to get those things together right now. So that's what we do here in Sunrise.
Thank you so much. Would you like to add something?
Hi, in answer to your question, I would definitely recommend when you're doing your outreach or other events for anyone here that does outreach events, I would definitely recommend that you advise people to register for both. One of the questions for VPR is, are you currently registered for the Special Needs Shelter Program? But not everybody knows that there's a difference between the two. So I would definitely advise anyone that you communicate with, and all of you share that information with your friends and family, that it's strongly recommended that they do both, because one storm, category 1, you may say, I got my water, I got my supplies, I got my shutters, I should be okay. You choose to remain at home. But if it's a category 2, 3, 4, you're like, you know what, it's probably safer if I evacuate, you're already registered and you have that option as well. So you can do both. It's not either or, and it's recommended that you register for both.
You have to evacuate your animals to the shelter. I know you said that there's no refrigerator. Is it possible you could bring a cooler for the medication for the animal?
Yes, you can bring a cooler with ice and handle it yourself. We want to make people aware that there's not refrigeration available for the general public, so you can bring that on your own.
Okay, thank you so much.
Hi, good morning. I want to thank the Broward County for their excellent, and applaud you for your excellent service that you are giving today. But I'm not from Broward County, which I'm sorry, I wanted to move here at first. But do you know if Miami-Dade coordinate with each other? From, Miami-Dade and Broward, do they coordinate during storms?
Absolutely. They definitely coordinate, and with Palm Beach County as well, there's a lot of communication back and forth between the three counties. And with the National Weather Service, they all consult with the National Weather Service, which Robert will talk about later. So there are so many phone calls and so many meetings leading up to a storm, with every single entity you could imagine involved. So they cover every base, and especially Miami-Dade and Palm Beach County.
And you said this is the first time that you've planned this as an elderly care?
This conference.
Presentation?
Yes, this is the first time we've had this
Are they gonna
conference.
do one in Miami-Dade?
That I don't know. Charlotte would be able to maybe give you the contact information for their dementia care and care initiative task force.
They don't do the same thing yet. This is the Area Agency on Aging and the DCCI task force that put this together. The Area Agency on Aging in Dade County is a totally separate entity. They have their own programs they put on. I can talk to them about it, but we don't really have a connection with them.
Yeah, as well as Broward County, we also have a very highly aging elder and abused caregivers too.
I'll talk to their CEO down there and see if he's
Thank
interested.
you.
You're welcome.
Good morning, my name is Stephanie. Question is regarding the shelters for dementia patients. Are they like dementia friendly?
No, they are dementia friendly, and for example, the Elderly and Veteran Services Division staff who report to the special needs shelters, we send 4 case managers to each special needs shelter during the storm. They all have that training year round because they serve clients year round with dementia. So all of them are trained in that, and the health department staff are also.
Thank you, all of you. Excellent job.